and you're listening to Stage. As well, in the studio we have David Burrowes, who is, you might have seen him direct The School for Scandal at New Theatre last year, and he's back with That Eye, the Sky, based on a Tim Winton novel. Who's adapted this?
So this has been adapted by Richard Roxburgh and Justin Monjo, who put together this beautiful adaptation for the Sydney Festival, like almost over 2 decades now, in 1994.
Right.
They adapted this, and we're, I think, the first people to have a crack at remounting it or doing a production of this adaptation.
How
since
exciting.
it was first performed. Yeah.
So what's the story?
So it's based off a Tim Winton novel about a young boy, as so many of them seem to be, named Ort Flack, who at the beginning of the play and of the novel, his father is in a car crash that leaves him in a vegetative state, and it's about this sort of family living out in the country, sort of dealing with that and trying to figure out how to survive in a world where the most important part of our lives has just been ripped away.
He does family and also landscape really well. Australian, so how...
Or West Australian, generally,
Western
isn't it?
Australian,
Yeah. So I take it this is set in
yeah.
Western Australian, like
Yeah,
pretty
it
much
is.
every other Tim
It
Winton
is
novel.
just like most Tim Winton novels. It's there in Western Australia. It's in a small regional town in Western Australia. It's got our body of water as well. It's got a river by his house.
And there's a sort of spiritual element to the story.
Absolutely,
Is that right?
yeah. So I mean, as I mentioned, they're trying to find this family are trying to find a way to kind of get by, and a couple of different things come up, but something that happens that has the most profound kind of effect on them is a stranger comes to help them, Henry Warburton, and he brings them God. He brings them spirituality. He brings them Jesus Christ and salvation, and that sets a whole bunch of things in motion.
In what form does he bring God?
In the form of he tells them about it, basically.
So
he's a preacher. He's an evangelical preacher, and he
Okay.
arrives to sort of tell them all about it. And this is a very new concept for this family.
And is this after the father is in the coma? Is this?
Yeah, so this is
because
all...
they were hippies before, weren't they? Or
Yeah, so they were living out. This family's living out in this town as hippies, basically. They were all originally from the city, the parents at least, and they came out and they had these kids and they wanted to live by the trees and grow their own vegetables and make their own milk and do all the hippie things. And because of that, they're quite they're a family that's used to sort of doing everything themselves, but when Sam, the father's kind of ripped out of it, they've got no money, they've got no breadwinner, it becomes a lot harder for them to survive, and that's when the spirituality aspect comes in, and they sort of try to grab hold of it and see if it'll save them, if it'll be their salvation.
So is it a story of the child's kind of spiritual, or is it awakening, or does he decide it's all bollocks, or I mean, we don't want to give it away, obviously, but it's his sort of spiritual journey?
It's a coming of age story. It's about it's about this kid who's growing up, and a big part of that is this discovery of there being something, there being this eye, that eye, the sky, up above him, looking down, who may or may not be there to help. And it's.
And what do you think Tim Winton was trying to say with the story?
Tim Winton's so beautifully enigmatic, and I think that a difference between perhaps Richard Roxburgh, I haven't had a chance to have a chat with Richard Roxburgh about his original adaptation. He directed the original piece, but Richard seemed to be far more optimistic about what Winton, the direction Winton was coming from. I personally think Winton's a bit more cynical about how alone we are or are not. He seems to be a bit more cynical.
Less a believer?
Less a believer.
Than the place?
More. It seems to be, for me, I was really attracted to the sort of the humanist elements of it. Sort of like, how do we survive if we are alone? How do we get by if it's just us? And that does sound really depressing when you say it like that, but it's, for me, I also find that a bit hopeful as well. If it is just us, how
So
do we
it's
survive?
the desert or the bush, I guess. And how are you doing this on stage? I mean, it is quite a big stage, a new theatre. I guess,
It's a huge stage. I mean, something wonderful about the adaptation is that it's employed this sort of this form of magical realism. So we're constantly moving sort of between space and time, it's quite a fluid sort of dreamscapey kind of play, which has been a lot of fun to try to figure out how to make that work on stage. But for us, what that has meant is that we've moved away from doing things realistically or naturalistically. So
made your job easier. In a way.
Yeah. So we've just given ourselves a nice big open space and hopefully some set elements that people will find interesting or exciting. But
I was just, is there any autobiography in it? Is it reflecting some of Tim's background? That's that whole thing of having a looser upbringing and then finding a more structured belief later in life?
That's a great question. I don't know, but it when you read so much of his work, the same themes come through. I mean, about young kids sort of growing up and
self-rearing almost.
It must be in some sense, you know. These themes keep coming up. There must be something that he's trying to unpack. But unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to. I'd love for Tim to see this. I'd love to have a chat with Tim afterwards, but he hasn't RSVP'd just yet. Just yet. I'm sure he's getting on the plane as we speak for opening night tomorrow.
Have you referred back to the novel throughout the process and read everything of his now?
Yeah, we
You're an expert.
The novel kind of became our
Bible.
Our Bible, yeah, absolutely. We normally when you're doing a play, you know, the script is very much your sort of core text, but because the adaptation was when Richard Roxburgh and Justin Mojo rewrote it, it was so closely linked to what they were doing with it. It's you can see in the writing
themselves, You
can see in the writing that it was you know, they performed it in a church when they first did it, and so much of the staging in the text is kind of written for this specific venue, and the text itself has been written for a cast that were probably all sitting around in the same room having the same conversation. So it can be a little bit difficult for someone from the outside to come in and kind of work out
Did you want to make
aspects.
some changes to it as you went?
Not dramatically, no. But going back to the original novel, we were able to go, oh, so that's why they made this choice, and that's why they were heading in that direction. So it really was the Bible for us.
Is it a good novel? Is it, you know, a good read like Cloud Street or his, you know, really well known?
I loved it. I loved it. It's not one of his better known novels
of the same name.
But it is. So it's also called That Eye of the Sky. Yeah. It's to be honest, it was a novel that made me really, really want to do it. I mean, I had read the script and thought it was beautiful, but it was quite challenging. I couldn't quite get my head around at first how I could do it. It's a very challenging script, but then I went back to the novel and just sort of everything just kind of clicked, and it was beautiful, enigmatic, really complicated story, and it's that I wanted to unpack.
Terrific. Well, David Burrowes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That Eye of the Sky is opening tomorrow evening at the New Theatre, previewing at the moment. It's on until the 16th of April.